There we go. Okay, so hey, Eric, and then I will also try to keep an eye on if anyone else joins in. I need to share my screen to get over to my PowerPoint. And here we go. So, today we're going to be talking about what are core words and what do they do. And I'm Claire Campbell. I am a speech pathologist, and I also have my assistive technology professional credentialing, and I work at Vanderbilt Bill Wilkerson Center. So disclosures, I am a salaried employee of the Vanderbilt Bill Wilkerson Pediatric Speech Language Clinic. I don't actually work specifically for any device company. We work with iPads, we work with low tech, we work with high tech, we work with all of the different things that are out there. Non-financially, I am a member of ASHA, TASLIP, TAT, and SIG 12, and I would encourage all of those organizations for everybody. If we take a look at these two lists of words, take a minute to look through the list on the left, list 1, and the list on the right, list 2, and think about which words are going to be most useful to you at school, at home, talking with your friends, going on vacation, going out to lunch. Just take a few minutes and look at those words. So hopefully it's pretty obvious to you that list 1 is completely different than list 2. And we're going to talk about today what the pros and cons of these two list types are for our individuals who are using AAC, and honestly for some of our late talkers as well when we're trying to do therapy. So when we're talking about AAC, and especially core words, we're trying to think about functions rather than labels. When we first start teaching children, we have a tendency to go about and say, okay, you know, here's monster, here's truck, here's ring, here's train, here's house, here's basket, here's folder, here's book. And those things are really easy to snap a picture of, to put on a PEX card. But when we go around and just label the environment, are those actually the words that we're using when we're talking? So are they really going to get us true communication? And the answer to that is no. What we use to communicate is actually a group of words called core words. There are a ton of different studies out there that you can look at. Depending on which one you look at, we're talking about 200 to 400 frequently used words. You use them across all kinds of situations. And there are a variety of types of words. Rather than being the nouns that we would have labeled with in the previous page, we're talking about verbs, adjectives, pronouns, adverbs, prepositions, more of what we might refer to as the functor words in a sentence. But these words actually make up 75 to 80% of what we say on a daily basis. And that doesn't matter whether you're 5, 15, 105, male, female, whether you're talking about at school, at McDonald's, at home, reading a book. And if we're teaching our kids right, then it's the same regardless of ability level. The rest of those words, the nouns, what would have been list 1 when we got the first page, those are what we call fringe words. Fringe words are only nouns. We use them about 20% of the time. And they are mostly labeling and requesting. You don't combine two fringe words naturally in speech. I wouldn't walk around and say chair, floor, pencil, crayon, phone, desk. If I was saying those things and that was all I was saying, you would be going, which one does she want? Did she want the pencil or did she want the crayon? I combine my fringe with core words to give meaning for communication. Get pencil, red pencil, my pencil. I don't really have an adverb for pencil. Pencil now, maybe. Pencil down with prepositions. So we use those other words to give meaning to the context. The French word just labels what the object in the environment is. It doesn't mean they're not important, because we do use them about 20% of the time. But whereas the core is pretty standard across kids, the fringe is gonna vary depending on someone's interests. So my fringe words and the things that are motivating to me are gonna be Nashville Predators, hockey, hippopotamus, it's my favorite animal. Some people couldn't care less about that. Chocolate, coffee, those are the nouns and the objects that I'm gonna talk about a lot. But if I got my dad involved, he would still probably have coffee and chocolate, but he's gonna wanna talk about Mickey Mouse and John le Carré books. And he likes to watch all of those diners, drives, and dives and drive-ins, whatever those kinds of shows. So we have different fringe words. We have different things we're going to talk about, but we would use the same core words to talk about those fringe objects. So if we're looking at these Disney lyric songs right here, take a look for a moment. Oop, I almost let you cheat. Take a look for a moment and see if you can identify which ones are the fringe words. So if we take a look at those, out of all 5 of those lyrics, we only have 6 different fringe words. So we've got snowman, water, friend, darling, sea, and king. There's nothing else that you could say with just those 2 words that would make any sort of meaningful sentence. But what else could you say if you put together different parts of the core words? Oh. You could talk about, I've been wet with our adjective. I wanna build down, and talking about like I wanna build down there. We've got, you have got and me, which if you did the get me, that's a great way to talk about tickling. We could say down under. We could say I don't want to wait. So there's a lot of things we can combine with these core words in here. Here is, I've got to change my share, a very cute video for us to see the difference. So let me stop this share, and I apologize for my hair all over the place. I am an active peds SLP, and we are seeing patients in clinic with masks and face shields and all of that fun stuff. So I tend to look like a mess by the end of the day. So let me get back to the Zoom controls now. And I want to share this screen. Okay. So this is a YouTube video. It's a little girl named Claire. It's not me, and my dad didn't get all these bonus points, but let's watch this video. Okay, so I think we can all, first of all, agree that she is adorable. But what we can also take away from that is she is a 2-year-old. She's obviously very typically developing. So no, we don't expect all of our kids to be able to communicate at that level. But when she's communicating, the only Fringe words she uses in that whole video that's over 2 minutes long are birthday, the word mommy, which arguably is a core word for all of our kiddos. They use that all the time. She used her numbers, and she used the word reasons in there. So those were the only Fringe words in that whole video. And if you think about it, those were not the words that made the video cute. Those weren't the words that gave the video any meaning. She gave her reasons, but her reasons were full of core. You know, you are amazing, all core. You are beautiful, all core. You're the best cook, all core, because cook can be a verb. You work so hard, again, all core. So those are all words we could use in lots of situations, and they were the meat of the video. So when we look at our core, breaking it down a little bit more, we've got verbs. Go is a huge one that I teach early all the time. You can make bubbles go, you can make music go, you can tell someone to go away, you can go inside, outside, up, down. Play can be playing with toys, playing with friends. Play is also a word we use when we talk about videos and songs. So that's another way to reinforce when you have kids who have limited interests outside of YouTube. Get, I already mentioned I like to do get for tickles, get me. I also use get instead of want a lot of times, because so many kids will start with I want X for a man, and then they kind of get stuck in that phrasing. But you could talk about get more, get big blue, get this, get that. Turn can be it's my turn, turn the page, turn it on, turn it off, turn it up, turn it down, turn it in, turn around. I love to do wind-up toys with my kids because a lot of them find motor-wise struggle, and then we can use this word turn, and then we can talk about making them go. Run, make, eat, see. And see and look are great verbs, not only for talking about what you're doing individually, but for getting the attention of someone else. So rather than screaming, or we have some kids who will grab your face and physically turn you towards them, you can have them work on look, so trying to grab your attention that way. Adjectives are core words: happy, funny, fast, cold, pretty, scary, big, hungry, and many, many more. So we can describe what we're doing. The colors also fall in here. So, if we're talking about a kid whose favorite things are balls, rather than just saying, I want ball, I want ball, I want ball, it could be, I want big, I want little, I want red, I want bumpy, I want squishy. So we can do some of the describing, and then those words would carry over into a new situation. Where a ball, if you're not talking about a ball that you're playing with, that's pretty much it. Preposition words are probably my favorites for starting to do 2-word phrases, because you can use them so easily to direct in your environment or describe your environment. We can put it in, put it on, put it under, put it out, put it up, put it down, put it beside, put it behind. We can go in, we can go under, we can go out, go up, go down. So these are really fun words. These words also lend themselves well to working with your OTs and PTs. So if you have kids who are getting multiple services, these can be great for doing gross motor activities or fine motor activities. So set up an obstacle course and have the child describe how they're going to walk through it. I'm going to go under the chair, we're going to go over the mat log, and we're going to go through the tunnel. So then they can talk about it, but then they can also practice those motor skills as they're doing them. There's an excellent program out there called Fine Motor Boot Camp that was put together by 2 sisters. One's an OT, one's an SLP. And so a lot of their activities deal with things like clipping, clothespins, and a pattern. So you can talk about put red beside, put green in the middle, and then you can also practice those fine motor activities with it. So prepositions have a lot of power that can go in them. I also use the up and the down a lot if I'm doing music with kids to turn the volume up and down. Pronouns are considered core words. We have not just the people pronouns like I and you, but don't forget about things like that and those and these. That is a perfect replacement if you don't have the fringe word the kid wants. We will sometimes have kids come in and suddenly the things they like or they want have changed, or you have something new in the classroom, or there's been something new at home they want to talk about, and no one has programmed in that label yet because there's an endless amount of fringe words. There's tens upon thousands and they're constantly changing, because who would have ever imagined a bubble guppy would come along, but now it's a thing. So you can always say, want that, get that, that's mine, that go. And that can be a good replacement word for something you don't have. I also will use I and you a lot once kids have started getting the hang of some of the verbs. So if we've been doing go quite a bit to say make the bubbles go, then we might practice with who's going to make them go. Am I going to make them go, or are you going to make them go? And let the child do that so they can start learning about me and you. Sometimes easier said than others. One tip and trick I have found to be really successful if you have a child who's struggling with me and you is to do it during snack time of who's going to eat the snack, me or you. And usually they figure out pretty quickly that they don't mean you if you take it and you eat the food yourself. Then they get onto that idea that I or my is themselves pretty well. Question words are fantastic core words because we sometimes forget that our kids don't just need to answer questions. They don't just need to be tested. They need to be able to find out about their environment or advocate for themselves as well. So all of our who, what, when, where, why, how, these are fantastic questions. It's also a great way to work on social skills. I have several little surveys that I've made in Boardmaker, and I'll take my AAC kids around and we'll work on, asking people, what do you like? And those are all core words. And depending on their level, we might give them options of fringe words, but sometimes some of our kids who just are working on that basic core will stick with what do you like, or where do you go, and practicing those simple questions for social interaction. Interjections and social words are something I would advocate that every child needs from the very beginning, no matter what level you're talking about. These are those words that make the situation just for the sake of communicating. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no, you don't tell a kid their opinion is bad for something. So, did you like it? Yes or no? Was it awesome? Was it awful? Was it cool? Oops, we made it fall down, whether it was an oops or not. You can do your good mornings and your goodbyes as you're going in and out of places. So kids definitely need access to these early on. For younger kids, we can usually figure out and guess the things that they're going to need. For older kids, I highly recommend typically developing peers, especially if you have a peer buddy program in your school, and asking them, hey, what are the slang words that you guys use? And trying to get some of those programmed in. I am past the point where I am cool. I know I'm not cool anymore. So I rely on siblings and peers to help me out with some of that. Adverbs, I know, makes us all think we've got to reach back a little bit further in our brain for what was an adverb and how do we use those. But our adverbs tell how we're doing something or the timing on something. Again, don't, now, there, away. And these words have a ton of power. I use again instead of more quite a bit. More technically is a quantity. So we have so many kids who just sign more and they think it means it gets them anything they want. But especially if they are signing more as they begin an activity and they didn't have anything to start with, they're not really using that word and that concept correctly. But again, for another time can be really powerful. So you've made a top go. Okay, let's do it again. You've watched a video on the iPad. Oh, did you want to watch it again? And then you can get to the point where you start to compare more and again. Okay, did you want to watch more videos or watch that one again? So you can really dig deep into what the language means. I love to give kids the word don't early on because if kids don't have a way to protest appropriately, they're going to act out. Now they're in a way, if you're going to follow the blogs that they're going to post with the Tennessee Talks grant, you'll see this story coming up, but you'll get a sneak preview right now. One of my favorite stories about an AAC kid, I had a kid in Houston when I was working at Texas Children's Hospital. He was 6 years old with cerebral palsy, and mom was trying to get him to show off for the doctor. You know, show the doctor I can say, Mom, I love you. Come on, show it, Mom, I love you. And all of a sudden he says, Mom, go away, which I just loved because that proves that he knew what he wanted to say. He knew what he was talking about, and he was able to say what he actually felt in that situation rather than just complying with mom. There we go. Okay, so when it comes to our core words, we've talked about kind of what some of them are. The pictures can be tricky. Fringe words, like we talked about at the very beginning, are super easy to walk around your classroom, to walk around your home, take photos. You know, obviously that's cake, that's ball, that's chair. The core words can be harder to pick out. These are symbols from 3 different companies. So the this, that, there, that is from Boardmaker, which is what Toby Dynavox uses, or PCS symbols, you'll see that. So it's an arrow pointing to a box. Okay, I can kind of decide that means that, but it also means there, it also means this. That's kind of indistinct. The picture to the right is of the sun over the mountain. That's for the word get on a PRC device, so the MinSpeak system. That system is built around motor planning, so their icons a lot of times have lots of meanings of what's going to be underneath one icon. And the sun is getting up over the mountains, and then there's nature words also in that folder. So no one, I think, would naturally picture a mountain and a sun for the word get if they weren't using that system. Then the other one towards the bottom left is symbol sticks. That's the symbol for where. Obviously it's a question word, but if you didn't tell me that it was for where, I'm not sure that I'd put all those arrows together to understand where. So recognizing that the pictures actually have nothing to do with using the device. Most users are not relying on the pictures, especially if they're doing core words and novel utterance generation. Now, some of our users who are on the lower end of the spectrum and are using more full phrase sentences or full phrase utterances and context specific communication, the pictures may be a little bit more important in those scenarios. But when we're talking about core words and creating our own sentences and really building up language, it doesn't matter. As long as you're consistent with reinforcing meaning, most users are going to pick up on the symbol set. I have seen kids who people had totally written off as being able to use AAC do fine with core words and complex symbol systems as long as you give them consistent feedback and input. So now we're going to talk a little bit about why do I communicate, because we know what core words are, and now we have to figure out why we would use them. Where we usually start in therapy is requesting. But think about your day-to-day and how many times, other than asking a kid to stop doing something, which is bordering more on directing, have you requested a specific object? I want X. I don't think I've made any direct requests today. I haven't ordered coffee yet. I'll probably do that after this. I haven't gone up to anybody and asked for an object. We don't really make that many requests in a normal day. And then labeling, we talked about requesting and labeling are the things we can do with Fringe. And labeling has little use in conversation. Unless you're asking someone what they brought or what they want for their birthday, labeling's not that important. And I don't just walk around going door, chair, window, whiteboard, wall, carpet, picture, trash can. Those are the things I can see in my environment right now, but that was not functional communication. So labeling and requesting are those limits. What we do with Fringe is, first and foremost, we talked about needing a way to protest. I don't want that. I'm through. I don't like that. Get away from me. Those sentences are all made completely of core words. And if we don't have words to protest, what do? We throw a fit. We scratch our friends. We throw things across the room. So I'm a big advocate of teaching kids how to protest early and watching for those signs that they're getting upset and showing them, oh, you can tell me, I don't want it. I don't like it. Stop that. We comment, and this is something we do all day long. This is one of the primary reasons that we communicate as human beings back and forth to share our opinions. That's cool. It's hot outside. You're weird. This is funny. I see something blue. We do a lot of directing other people. Sometimes what we actually call request is directing someone. Come here, put it up, blow more bubbles at me, look at this, do that, do this, come here, put down. We use those kinds of words a lot, and I recommend those highly in therapy because I can control my environment and ask the child, well, what do you want me to do with this? So if they request it, I have two options. I can either give it to them or I cannot. But if we're directing, we can continue to go along with the activity. Oh, okay, you wanted a blue block. Where should we put it? We can put it on top. Should we get more or are we done? Ooh, we knocked it down. Oops, oh no, it fell down. So that opens up a lot more reasons to communicate than just, can I have it? We use a lot of words for describing. So we talked about before our adjectives, we have a big dog, a fast car, a hungry baby, loud music. So I would definitely recommend, if you are working on Fringe, trying to start adding in some of those describing words, some of those adjectives to increase that MLU. Until you start adding in the core words, you're never going to have an increased MLU. We do lots of socializing. So these are all core: what's up, see you later, hello, how are you? And these are huge goals we have for a lot of our kids, because either they have a disorder where they're not socializing much, such as autism, or they have had trouble being able to socialize because of their lack of communication or motor skills, in the case of many of our kiddos with cerebral palsy, with some of the genetic disorders. And giving them a chance to interact can really add a lot of value and a lot of pleasure to their day. A lot of our kids are really social, but don't have their bodies fight against them for being able to do that. We talked about question words. We've all heard kids, are we there yet? When is it? What are you doing? What is that? Where are we? So especially for our kids who have a lot of anxiety, teaching them how to ask a question and how they can seek that information and get some reassurance using their device. And then, of course, asking questions also leads us back to interacting with peers and sometimes adults appropriately. In addition to being useful in all those different situations, the core words give you the most bang for your buck. So like I talked about at the beginning with some of the examples, they have so many multiple meanings. They can be used in different places. Turn can be my turn, your turn, turn it up, turn it down, turn the page, turn around, turn in, turn under, turn up, turn down. There's just so many good ways to use these words that you can use a core word of the week lesson plan. You can use a, focus on a book that has a repetitive core word, go dog go, and finding go over and over. And then you can talk about every other way that you go throughout your day. So rather than having to teach the specific Fringe for every activity during the day, you can pick one or two core words that follow up. If I was just doing my Fringe for a school day, I might start with everybody's name, and then all the days of the week, and then the months of the year. And then I might go into science, and for whatever unit I have, maybe I'm talking about planets this week. And then I go into math and I'm talking about subtraction and addition. And then I go into language arts and I've got the names of different characters in a book and the parts of a book. And then I go into social studies and I've got, pilgrims and boat and voyage. And that gets to be a lot of words to try and keep up with over the course of a day. And some of them we're not going to use again after a week. So my rule of thumb on focusing on Fringe and adding it in, is it going to be useful in 2 weeks, in 2 months, in 2 years? If the answer is no, then that's not what I want to spend my time focusing on. I want to focus on those words that are going to continue to be useful to my kids. And if you join us next week for some ways to make the core useful throughout the day, we'll talk about the ways you can still target some of your academic goals using core in place of those topic-specific Fringe words. So before we get to some question time and some wrap up, I want you to think about typically developing children have been exposed to oral language for approximately 4,380 waking hours by the time they begin speaking, around 18 months. A lot of times this isn't the case for our children with complex learning needs or complex medical needs. They might have spent a good chunk of their time in the NICU when they were little, where the focus was just on keeping them alive, not on stimulating language. We know that our kids who are not able to meet those early communication and interaction milestones before and around 1 year of age end up getting talked to less because they're not responding. And if they haven't been identified until they turn 3 and get into the school system, they haven't gotten that good language. Sometimes they're not even identified at 3. They're identified when they get to kindergarten. So we've missed out on a ton of time. And if we are using an alternative symbol set, so some sort of communication system, and we only focus on it for 20 to 30 minutes at a time, we're looking at 84 years for them to have that same exposure that typically developing children get by 18 months. So we've got to figure out what is going to let us capitalize the most on their communication abilities, which is why we like to focus on these core words. And then we've got to focus on them for more than just at speech therapy. It's got to be across the day, across situations, across people, which again is why those core words lend themselves well, because they can be used across situations so well and so easily. So kids get a lot of practice with those and are able to interact. So hopefully that wasn't too much of a rush through the concept of what are core words. I know we're all getting a little bit used to a different format of presenting where you're just in a room by yourself talking to a screen. Anyone who had logged on, are there any questions I can answer or any situations you'd like to talk about? Just please remember, if you're talking about a specific student or patient, not to give any identifying information. You can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. I'm just going to stop my share so I can see the chat if anything pops up. Okay, well, I appreciate those of you that did jump on. This session has been recorded, so I'm sure that Janice will give you guys the info to go back and review it if you need to, or if you want to share it with families, with other therapists, other teachers. I think we're also going to try to repeat it in a couple months and give some more people the opportunity to get the information, because we're just getting these off the ground. Next week at this same time at 1 o'clock Central on Wednesday, I'll be presenting again on using those core words throughout the day. So would love to have you guys come back and learn a little bit more in that direction. Certainly email Janice if you have more ideas about what you'd like to hear people talking about. You are welcome to contact me if you have specific questions and you'd like to in follow-up. If they're about a specific patient, I can't do it without a release, but just generalizations obviously are fine. And definitely try to encourage everyone to, if they're getting private therapy and school therapy, try to get those releases signed so we can talk. We love to try to talk with our school personnel because you guys are with them all day, every day, and we just see them one time a week or sometimes even just once a month or once a quarter. I saw your comment, Nancy. I'm so glad that you think this will be a good training to share with everybody. And like I said, we'll be doing it again. Also, that blog is going to be popping up, and I'm looking forward to participating in that. So if there are no other questions, then I'll let everybody go, but I appreciate you joining in, and definitely stay in touch. I think this is going to be a great focus for this grant and for our state. Thanks, Eric. You as well.